Friends, let me just tell you, it's yours. So go get it. Man, I want to talk to you about something that the Lord was speaking to me about in prayer. It was like I was praying and just spending some time at corporate prayer one Tuesday night with the Lord. And I felt the Lord say, ask my people, do you want it? And then he responded to me, tell them, it's yours. Go get it. Man, it seems so simple sometimes, but on the other hand, it's so hard. A lot of times that we like to dream with God and invite the Lord to really dream through us in the night season or give us a vision. There's a lot of times that God just plants a purpose inside of our heart, a dream, a destiny, and then different people will come by and speak confirmation to it or just something, because God speaks in so many ways, but you get confirmation on a dream. And the problem is so many times people sit around and they talk about it. Listen, when it's all said and done, there'll be more said than done, because people are always talking about what they want to do. They want to talk about their plans, their dreams, their purpose, their destiny. There's so many times that people talk about the promises of God. They talk about their prophetic words, but I'm asking you, do you want it? Do you really want it? Do you really want everything that God has called you to? It's yours. Go get it. See, when God gives you a prophetic word, whenever God gives you something, that's yours in the supernatural. You now have a vision and you hold that vision in your mind in the supernatural realm. But if you commit it to prayer and you work hard upon it and you move forward on it, the thing that you saw in your spirit, you can hold in your hands one day. That there's been times in my life when God would promise me something. He would promise me some type of ministry. He would promise me one of my friends coming to know the Lord. He would promise me just different things in life. I would commit myself to fast and pray until I saw what I saw in the spirit in the natural. See, when you see it in the spirit, you can see it in the natural. It just takes work. You got to understand, God is a good God. He's a loving Father, and He gives. Just like when Daniel prayed, the Lord said, I heard and answered the first day, but the enemy fought you for 21 days. See, the enemy is fighting you on so many things. When somebody prophesies the word of the Lord to you, whenever you get a prophetic vision and you write it down like Habakkuk 2:2, when you write that down, the enemy will try to come against you. He will try to fight you. But what you must understand is it's yours. He's already given it to you. And so there's a delay on some things. But what I'm asking you is why aren't you fighting for what God has given you? Why aren't you fighting for everything? I remember one time I was counseling, my wife and I were counseling a young lady, and this lady said, my marriage is over. I thought this was from God and this and that. And I said, excuse me, did God tell you that was your husband? She said, yes, y'all had a malfunction. Y'all had a mess up. Let's do a little counseling. Let's get things back together. They're happily married today. But what it was, she had to fight for her marriage. There's so many people that God has promised them healing on something. They've been fighting something. You know what? You've got to hold fast and you've got to stand firm. I was promised a healing. And I went for months and months in just horrible pain, and I didn't understand why I wasn't getting healed, and then my healing manifested. I remember a time that a doctor came to me and said, we're going to have to put 3 rods and screws and all this stuff in your foot. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And the Lord said, if you don't get surgery, I'll heal you. Well, it didn't happen right away, but it happened like a few weeks later, and I was completely healed. The healing totally came forth and was manifested. And so there's times when you get something from God, you've got to hang on to it. We have some precious, precious people in our church that they've had so many prophetic words about having a baby, and just, they've been married quite a while and they never had a child. Well, you know what? That their baby's a month old now. I was preaching up in the top part of Arkansas, and there was this family. They were promised a child from the Lord, and so they never had a child, been married for 15 years. So they went and adopted. You know how that story goes. So they adopted a child. As soon as they got the child home, she became pregnant. I know of 3 different stories like that. And so now they have 2 kids. And so the thing is, when you get a promise from God, Don't ever let the enemy, don't ever let a circumstance or situation or person talk you out of it. Do you want it? Listen to me. Go get it. My wife and I, we love helping people with our apostolic network. We love helping people as health coaches. Had a young lady call me the other day, real young girl. She's 70 years young. And she said, hey, got good news and bad news. I said, okay, I want the good. She said, God spoke to me and I realized I have a huge call on my life. I said, phenomenal. What's the bad news? I'm 100 pounds overweight and I can't do it. I said, I got good news and I got good news. She said, what is it? I said, one, I'm a health coach. Two, I'll help you drop the weight. I even got more good news. I'll help you run after what you're called to do. She said, hey, that is good news. You know what? Now she's on a health program getting to the place. See, what happens is a lot of times people get a prophetic word from God, but they can't carry it out. I know people who are called to be missionaries and their health is in bad shape. And the doctor says, before you go to another country, you got to get in shape. You got to eat right. You got to start working out. There's a lot of people who God has promised them millions of dollars and business ideas, but they only make $40,000 a year and they can't even budget their checkbook. Why would God give them a business that can make millions of dollars if they can't even budget a little checkbook making $30,000, $40,000 a year? So what you got to understand is if God gave you something, if he gave you a prophetic word, something in the supernatural realm, you start working on it. I remember when I was young, God told me I was called to preach. I used to stutter. I had a problem reading. They said I was dyslexic. I would look at the words and it just took me a while, one, for my eyes to focus on the word, but two, to get everything out. And I said, I don't want to be in front of people. I don't want to read. And all of a sudden, I felt that really, growing in me. And so I started wearing glasses again. So when I was reading and I started doing public speaking classes, I did something called Toastmasters, very good program. And I started speaking. And so I started working on myself. God called me to do something that physically I knew I was not a public speaker. I had a problem with my eyesight in reading. So you know what? I got my glasses. Now I don't even wear my glasses that much. I do believe God healed my eyes to a great degree. I love getting in front of people. I love speaking. I love being a minister of the gospel. And so all of these things, I started moving forward in the natural realm to put my faith out there with the supernatural word that God had on me. I remember when the Lord spoke to me, he said, you're going to start traveling. I said, Lord, I don't think anybody would, want me to preach for them. And so I made one or two Facebook posts and I said, hey, I'm going to start traveling. A few people started having me come in and preach. And then all of a sudden we had 2 or 3 extended revivals and then it just kind of took off from there. But what happened is I had to put myself out there. Sometimes you got to put yourself out there. When my wife and I became health coaches, I was like, Lord, what are people going to think? I'm a health coach. Well, and I just felt the wind of the Lord on it. I had a lot of preachers that were doing this. And they said, some people may come against you because you're a preacher and you're talking about health. But the Bible does say spirit, soul, and body. I put myself out there and God said, I'm going to bless you physically through it. Lost 19 pounds in 2 weeks. I had an extensive surgery. Healed from all of the problems because of this program in the hand of the Lord. And I stepped out on it and now I'm doing it. And financially it's blessing our family. But I didn't want to step into that because I was doing all of this ministry. But you know what the Lord said? The Lord said, step out and do it and I'll bless it. And he has blessed it so far beyond my imagination. And so what I'm asking you is, do you want it? It's yours. And see, what you got to understand is every time I pray for something, God brings the answer to me, but it's packaged differently than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was coming UPS, but it came FedEx. It came through the post office. Somebody just gave it to me. It's always different. So whenever you put yourself out there in prayer, say, God, here I am, use me. You better be ready. And I'm telling you something, when he gives you a word, go for it with everything that's within you. And listen, critics and haters and trials, tests, tribulations, and situations, they're coming to anybody who's moving forward in any area of their life. Just roll with the punches and keep going. So friends, I'm telling you, you can have everything God has promised you. Do you want it? If you do, go get it. In any way possible, I can help you. You go to our website and you message me and I will help you.